Let me just do this a little bit this way. That looks good. A little too much. Uh, okay. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Well, another fun week up here in the frozen north. Um, we're running out of resin to process, but we keep having issues with the new um, stripping system. But this is exactly the time we want to run into issues before we need it. So that's fine. So, as you can see on the board behind me, well, that was almost the board behind me, too. Stainless steel heating element bad. Now, you saw the video where it showed all the gold precipitating on the stainless steel. And that, uh, David says, hi, Eva.
Hi.
Um, and that was an issue in and of itself. So I put some silicone. First of all, I took that heat shield off of it, and put some silicone rubber on it to try and prevent contact with the solution. That was a very limited usefulness. It got a few holes in it, and you know, it didn't work. It was in patches. But even worse, one of the places where it broke through um, was it. Well, actually, no, I didn't put the silicone in. That was the next one. I just decided to use it. I'd clean it off, etc. Hi, John. But came in one morning, and the solution was at room temperature, and the heating element had developed a hole, which allowed the solution in, which of course had fried the heating element. End of story. Okay. Well, that was a cheap $40 heating element. I'm like, okay, what the heck. So I did have a somewhat similar heating element from some stuff I had. It was actually a commercial grade electrolytic cell heating element, stainless steel. So I coated that with the uh, silicone rubber, and it lasted one cycle. Well, not quite one cycle before it did the same thing. Apparently, this solution, for whatever reason, has the ability to punch a hole in stainless steel, even though, as a general rule, it's not causing a lot of problems on the stainless steel. But you'll get these little holes, and then gazat. So we have a 500-watt aquarium heater on order. Again, Chris helped me find that on the internet because he's so much better at shopping on the internet than I am. But it's 500-watt heater. It's yeah, it's got half the power there is. Now that 1,000-watt heating element that I was using was $40. This is $20, so theoretically we could buy two. Um, but because it's an aquarium heater, it has an internal thermostat and stuff. So the suspicion is that when it shows up, it will not work as is, because the thermostat, for some reason, is designed to keep fish comfortable instead of poach them. And I doubt it has a continuous on setting. Okay, so we're probably going to have to do a little bit of disassembly and just make a direct hookup to the heating element, which, you know, shouldn't be a problem. It's kind of hard to rewire a submersible heating element. It's got a sheathing, it's got a packing, it's got a wire inside there. It's kind of like rewiring a heating element for your electric stove. Not going to be too easy to do. A whole lot cheaper to buy something else. Now this aquarium heating element is it's got a quartz tube and it looks like a plastic cap on the end, and then all the electronics are in an assembly at the other end of the tube. So in theory, we should be, if we can get all that other stuff loose on the upper end without breaking the tube, then we should be able to basically throw it all away, find the wires that go to the heating element, hook up to them, and seal it all up again. That's the theory. That upper part of the tube is not going to be under the solution. It's not going to be below water level. However, it is going to get subjected to a great deal of moisture from condensation and such. So it'll have to be sealed pretty well. The 1000 watt heating element that I was using, I did time things and define pot it, Chris. But the heating element I was using, I did check once it got up to temperature to see what the cycle was. And it was about a 2-minute heating cycle, followed by about an 8-minute cooling cycle. What is silastic? I know what silicone is. I'm not sure what silastic is. So anyhow, if a 1000 watt heating element has a 20% duty cycle, I would think a 500 watt heating element would have like about a 50% duty cycle. Well, the heating element on that aquarium heater is going to be completely submerged. Well, where do you get it, Chris? Silicone elastic compound. Is this like silicone rubber, or is this something else? As I say, I'm not exactly sure where I would get some of this product. As I say, is it something that you can go to Home Depot and they have it sitting there and with a particular name on it, or is it something I have to order on the internet? Fish pet store? I don't know. They had some. Most electronic supply. John, this is Helena. We don't have electronic supplies here. We do have some electrical stuff, with contractor supply sort of thing, but not electronics. Anyhow, that's fine. That's another week I got to do nothing. Self-vulcanizing rubber. I don't know. It's one of those things. There's a wide variety of things that would probably work. I could probably also take once I get everything in there and stuff a plug in there and then pour a quick setting epoxy. You know, if epoxy, you mean by epoxy syringe, you mean like a 2-part epoxy type syringe? Lauren probably has some in his shop. But anyhow, we'll worry about that. I'm thinking we could probably use just silicone rubber, but Yeah, that'll happen. Tricky. You got to watch the oxygen content of enclosed spaces. So, well, I'm glad he was on a safety line. Um, they do make
Not wearing an O2 meter?
they do make meters that are relatively inexpensive. 12% O2, huh? Yeah, that's a little low for continued respiration. Yeah. So that's another thing, folks. Whenever you're opening up an enclosed space, you may get into a low oxygen environment, and that can get you really bad. There's a paste for explosion-proof electrical boxes that would work. Yeah, I say it's possible that the contractor supply might have something for sealing subsurface stuff. That's good. Tricky. So anyway, I say when it shows up, the biggest concern I have is being able to get it apart without breaking the tube. Because I'll be willing to bet you the upper package, it's a sealed unit. I think it's supposed to go completely under the water. And as such, it's got to be completely sealed. So getting it unsealed may be a little tricky without breaking the quartz tube. Maybe simply, maybe it'll just basically take a hot air gun and heat it and pull it off. Not sure. We'll see. It's only $20. On the other hand, the Inkbird thermostat is working just fine. Okay. This was $30 off of um, Amazon. It's got a temperature probe. You plug it into a socket, you set the temperature you want, and whenever the temperature goes more than 2 degrees different from the set temperature, in my case is 55, it will activate one of the two heat outlets that are hooked to it. One says heating, one says cooling. So it drops 2 degrees, it hits the heating one. If it rises 2 degrees, it throws power to the cooling one. Seems to work just fine. Had zero problems with it so far. Um, the temperature probe, of course, being stainless steel, is getting a bit of gold on it, but not sure what to do on that because, oh, that's right. The first heating element that failed, I tried spray painting it with a appliance epoxy spray paint. That didn't work. So that's why I tried the silicone on the next one. Not sure. Yeah, we could probably do that, Chris, without too much trouble. Glass tube and seal it at both ends. Shouldn't be a problem. You'd probably lose some sensitivity in terms of there's a time lag. It shouldn't be an issue in this application. Precise control is not critical. Mm, have to talk to, well, you could put it in plastic too, also. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't do that. Just plastic tube with silicone at both ends. What the heck? Or actually, probably best to put it, silicone in the tube and then just shove it in there so that it's completely sealed that way. Um, just a thin wall plastic tube. But yeah, should probably get to that. And that has been our problem. Yeah, we can, Chris. I say shouldn't be a problem though. It's gonna cycle a little wider. No big deal. Ours isn't getting that thick before peeling off, John. Was he applying a voltage to it? Because I say ours is peeling off before it gets that thick. yeah, I say, not sure what's ideal or not right now with the quantities that we're recovering. It's working fine with the way it's working, where it's just peeling off, and then at the end of the run, we just take a little plastic scrubber and scrub everything off, and then just kind of pan it and settle it gently, and it gets it pretty clean. Um, we're currently just using the stainless steel without electrical current. Trying that, we're getting a pretty high purity. We're getting over 95% precious metal in terms of when we take the dried debris and then smelt it. We get, well, I'm not sure what the last one was, but I think it was at least as good as the one before, which was 96% into the bead itself, which is far superior to when we were using the electrolytic cell, because we were getting a lot of iron debris from the carbon steel anode. So that was causing us some issues in terms of just crud. By using the cartridges to contain the resin, we're not having any problem with stray resin beads running around. So that's is the stainless polished or brushed? Uh, None of them look polished to me. Okay. Um, Now they certainly don't look polished. I'm also curious. Mysterious isn't here tonight, but I'm I'm wondering whether the phenomenon of the precipitation of gold on the stainless steel, and we were also seeing some what looked clearly like precipitation of gold on the carbon steel anode, which is like, why would it be doing that? Um, but the uh, we're probably either getting an ion replacement reaction where something in the stainless steel is going into solution while the gold is coming out of solution, just like you'd precipitate copper out of a silver nitrate solution. I mean, you use copper to precipitate gold out of a gold nitrate. Well, let me stop here. You would use copper to precipitate silver from a silver nitrate solution. The copper goes into solution, the silver comes out. Okay. That may be what's happening. Another thing I'm wondering about is if because all these steel alloys are actually crystals of different kinds of metal, very small crystals all next to each other and everything. I'm wondering if what you're getting is a little, what you might call micro galvanic action between the crystals, where one has more of one thing than another, and so it's becoming an anode and the other one's a cathode, whatever. Just really not sure. Mysterious can probably answer that next time he's on. But whatever it is, the stainless does seem to electrolysis plate the gold pretty effectively. I believe that's correct, Tricky. That's why I use the copper strips to precipitate with. Uh, Copper is more expensive, more reactive. So the stainless seems, fine with me for now. We'll see how well it lasts. Because if it's an ion exchange reaction, then it's going to dissolve in a fairly short order, depending upon how much gold you're precipitating. In which case, you're going to want a heavier sheet. If, on the other hand, it's not doing that, then it would, theoretically get by with pretty thin. I suspect it's going to essentially dissolve over time. But for every gram of stainless steel, I get 1 gram of gold. I'll go with that equation. That would be fine. But yeah, I'm sure copper would too. Don't know how challenging that would be to clean. Again, getting copper is not the easiest thing compared to stainless steel. but it's certainly doable. And depending upon the situation, especially say like you, Tricky, where you have kind of a low tech, you know, you don't have an Ace down the road or a Hobby Lobby or anything like that. Um, you know, it's pretty easy to either use copper wire or you can, you know, take some scrap copper wire and cast it into anodes or whatever.
You can take a piece of copper tubing, cut it, heat it, and pound it flat.
You can do all kinds of things, little one. Yeah. But as I say, there's a lot of, you wouldn't need to heat it to pound it flat. Copper's plenty malleable for that. That would not surprise me, Tricky. And I say we'll be trying stuff, but that was one of the questions that we were running into was what exactly was happening. And so if it's putting chrome into the electrolyte, then it might be best to go to the copper, which is an easier ion to deal with. I do have some copper sheet, plus I can get some at Hobby Lobby pretty cheap. That's a good idea. Let's see.
Copper roof flashing, if they have it out there.
No, they don't. I've never seen any around here. You might be able to order copper roof flashing, but I don't know. Copper sheet for sale. Okay. Put that on my list. You don't need a silver solder, Dave. You could just use copper. Yeah, it definitely precipitates the stuff out of solution. So I say that might be a nice, effective way to do it with minimal hassle. Then the question becomes: do you contaminate the resin during the stripping process with more copper ions? You could also precipitate the gold on the copper sheet, send it to the next stage, electroplate the copper, or just go back to the put the using the carbon steel anode and the stainless steel cathode. We know that works also. Good question. So there's a variety of methodologies. One thing that Eva has found is the gold has a limited solubility in lead. Yeah, that would be pretty durable there, Tricky. The hardware store has packs of 4x6 copper. Yeah, I've been to Ace. It's pretty expensive at Ace. It's cheaper at Hobby Lobby. But yeah. But anyhow, I'll say we have a lot of possibilities that we're trying. The preliminary testing on the electronic contacts has been unsuccessful with the stripping solution. I've tried 3 things so far: plain stripping solution, cold but stirred, just a little beaker with a test piece in it. The stripping solution as is but heated, and then the stripping solution heated and with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. None of these have shown aggressive dissolution of the gold. On the other hand, it's copper. So if it is dissolving the gold, it's going to want to replate back on the copper unless you take it out with, say, an electrolytic cell or something. So I say, just as testing, just trying to find something that will dissolve the gold, we may have to get a little more complicated than that. But we shall see. Anyhow, But that's theoretically the thiourea should dissolve the gold fairly readily. My concern is if you're trying to dissolve it off of copper, it's going to replate back onto the copper pretty readily also. So we may have to find something to scavenge the gold out of solution. We might be able to use I've got some tin sheet. Anybody out there, Tricky, Chris, or whatever? If you used a piece of tin put in the same solution that you're trying to dissolve gold off of copper, will the gold dissolve off of the copper and stick to the tin? That's the question. Which is higher in the electromotive series? Not sure. I'm going to have to get that chart and put it up on the wall here somewhere. Okay. Why just plate your copper with tin and gold? Tin is higher. Okay, so would it scavenge the question, Tricky D, is will the tin plate the gold out of solution, or as Chris suggests, would the copper simply plate both the tin, both the tin and the gold go into solution, and they just both plate on the copper? Anyone have any ideas on this? I could also theoretically put a carbon anode in there and put a little current on it. But boy, that would be there's a chart that tells you basically that if you take all your different metals and you put them in an electrolytic solution, they'll generate different voltages depending upon the metal. And they have a chart saying which is, does what. And it's in a series. The reactivity, the reaction potential, things like that. And so I say it's one of those things. Both. Okay, so let me put that copper sheet for sale. Plate gold on tin in electronics. Okay. And so by knowing which is what, a person who knows their stuff can accurately predict what's going to happen when you put this in that in solution, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not the chemist. I'll say so. I'm not sure what the rule is, but it's like, if this is above that on the chart, this is what's going to happen, So let's say it's like you can precipitate copper out of a copper sulfate solution with iron. You wind up with iron sulfate solution and metallic copper, replacing it as a solid. You can do this if you have like acid mine drainage with a lot of copper. You can just put scrap iron there, Yeah, electronegativity. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, I need to get that chart and review what it is. It's only been half a century. So, literally half a century since I took chemistry class. So, I'm a little bit rusty here, especially it was not applied chemistry, it was just your basic chemistry. So they might not even mention the details that I need to know for this, but at least I understand the basic concept. But that's what it's about, Outlier. And people like Tricky and Chris who are more knowledgeable than I, they can look at that chart and they can predict what will happen when. Okay. It definitely depends on which way the actual voltage is. And some of this voltage can be from the galvanic action of two dissimilar metals in a conductive solution, but the metal is going to tend to plate on the cathode. Now, this is what was quite surprising to me, was it looked like we were getting gold plating more on the cathode, but we were actually getting gold, it looked like gold plating on the carbon steel anode also. And it's like, what the heck? I'm applying a voltage here. I'm applying a third of a volt. That should be a positive electrode, and that should be a negative electrode. And it wasn't working. I mean, I'm not sure why the gold was precipitating on the carbon steel. My guess is it was a cementation type reaction. Again, I'm not a good electrochemist, so I'm not sure what the heck is going on, but it looked pretty clearly, I mean, just visually. It's like, okay, yeah, the stainless steel cathode, when I'm applying a voltage, is definitely plating heavier, but that carbon steel anode is also showing gold on it, but it was definitely corroding. I went through a 3/16 inch thick anode in between 1 and 2 weeks of continuous use. Basically, it completely eroded through to where there was a hole in the middle. Okay. So it's clear that anode was in fact being consumed, but it also seemed to be precipitating gold on it. Kind of weird stuff. The sludge, what you would call the anode sludge. Cool, John. Let me see if it's in my. There we go. American Science and Surplus. No. There we go. Reactivity chart. Let's see how that works. Reacts with acids, highly unreactive. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, John. So, anyhow, again, we're trying to figure stuff out. As you can see, Eva seems to have most of the smelting stuff under control. We still have to get to fire assaying before the summer season hits. But I say she's done that. Now, we're not sure how well the if you had a blue name, you could post for all. Okay, wine. Add as a managing moderator now. Does it say moderator? Let's try this. Okay, post something, John. I presume managing moderator is essentially the same thing as a moderator, but YouTube can never leave things alone. There you go. There you are. So you can post for other people now. Go ahead and redo that for them so people can see the reactivity chart. But anyhow, so that's the situation we are right now. But the crucipels are working well for large beads. The beads that we're dealing with in general are in tenths of a gram or bigger. Okay. If we go to fire assaying, those beads are going to be vastly smaller. And so we'll have to see how well crucipels work, or whether we're going to have to go to actual cupels. And that gets a lot more expensive if you're doing it for 30-gram lead buttons. However, I suppose it would be possible to cupel most of it in a crucible and then transfer it to an actual cupel if we needed to. But Eva will be doing experiments on this, and uh, yeah, I say there's you know a lot of ways we can possibly do this, but the the crucible works fine for when we're doing quality control stuff on the resins and stuff like that, where we have large quantities. In terms of making our own cupels, did you say you can also make them out of cement, little one? I mean, a pressed cupel out of
Yes.
cement.
That's the way they did it in the 20s and 30s.
Chris, Eva says you can use Portland cement for that too. You can press an actual cupel out of it, and
I'm still looking for some old papers on the precise ratios for that, but the book said 50% Portland cement and 50% bone ash.
well, then you still need bone ash. Okay, I said
But
Portland cement.
it also said that patent cupels made out of pure Portland cement were being manufactured.
Okay.
So it can be done. I just need the papers that
Okay.
explain how to do it.
So we'll see. Calcium phosphate fertilizer, huh? Okay. That's basically bone ash, I presume. Wonder how much that costs. And would that be an anhydrous, or is that normally a hydrous? I wonder. We'll research it. We'll figure it out. Hey, Richard, how's it going? So, anyhow, um, Eva's got her resin stuff going well. She's found that she needs um, at least what 5 or 6 times as much lead as gold to get it to dissolve.
Yes, it needs about 5 times. The book lists it as an excess, and it never talks about amounts less than 30 grams when you're doing a sample
Okay.
of concentrates and things.
Because we've tried just wrapping our electrolytic debris in gold foil and direct cupelling.
And lead foil.
Lead foil.
We don't
Sorry.
own gold foil
Yeah,
yet.
I know. Sorry. I'm getting old. In lead foil and direct cupelling, and that can wind up with sponge gold and stuff like that. So she prefers to actually do a fusion smelt with litharge and create a pretty big button and then cupel that down. Um, with the crucipels, that becomes a modest cost. With regular cupels, I mean that's like $2 a pop. Gets pretty expensive. So that seems to do okay. But we're trying to figure out what's the least expensive, most efficient way of doing everything, so that when we get back to actually making stuff, yeah, we're doing pretty good up here. Eva's back is healing up, and my surgery healed up just fine, so I'm back up to basically full speed. Although I'm sure my endurance isn't what it used to be because I don't get much exercise. And the truck should be fixed up pretty good in about 2 months. Between plan now is new engine, rebuilt power steering box, pump and hoses, redo the rear suspension thing. This has the lot. Well, I don't have a link there, Tricky. Try it again, Tricky, but this time try and get the link on there. I don't see anything. But we're doing it. So that's basically what we're doing. You can't post the link? Well, that's odd, Tricky. You got the blue wrench. Apparently it doesn't like that link. It's probably conservative or something. It's ultra MAGA or something. But anyhow, I say we'll be starting experiments with assaying rock here shortly. We have a number of samples of rock that we have a fire assay on already. This is stuff like, for example, when we were preparing batches for the agitation tank, and we split samples down to send off to the lab. We also split off another sample and retained it for ourselves, so that we can say, okay, this is, this assayed this much. So Eva would have samples that she could practice on, that we have a relatively known amount of gold in, so we can see how well that works. But the kind of beads that you'd be getting from a fire assay, especially, she's only doing half assay tons because of the size of the furnace and the cupels. Okay, Jeff. To get the lead back for reuse, now, first of all, we start with litharge, which is lead oxide, which is what we want to use for the assaying, and it'd be kind of hard to get it back into lead oxide. Okay. However, by taking the cupels or the crucible stuff and crushing it and mixing it with charcoal and then refurnacing it, it will reduce the lead again, and then you can, recover it. Jason from Mount Baker Mining had a video that included that in it at one point, but that's basically what you do. You just refire it with carbon. The carbon creates carbon monoxide, which is a really strong reducing agent, and it sucks the oxygen right away. There we go. Let's see, what do we got here? Finally got the link. Standard electrical potential data page. Wikipedia does not have an article with this exact name. Did you mean standard electrode potential data? Oh, okay. Strange. There's a paren missing. Yeah, here we go. This is what you meant. Okay, let me start that one. Okay, I got it saved. But anyhow, right now we're used to dealing with beads that are in the, at least 1/100th of a gram, sometimes a little less, but like that. And during the fire assay process, 1 ounce per ton ore would give you 1/2 of a milligram for a bead size. So they're going to be really, really small, which may pose a problem with the crucipels. It may be very, very hard to find them. If we can find them, if it does shrink to a single bead and it sits there where we can find it and pick it up with a pair of tweezers, then we can measure it with a little pocket microscope with a reticle, and we'll be able to get, the resolution on that. We can resolve that down to 1/1000th of an inch, which would theoretically be 0.0003 ounces per ton. So on a more reasonable thing, somewhere around 5/1000ths of an inch is 0.04 ounces per ton. So those are numbers which should be usable for us. But the question is, we'll need to see whether or not those size beads are recoverable on the crucible. Assuming that Eva has imported some silver, then we may wind up parting it.
I'm always going to be importing silver.
And then going from there. She's also going to try using an annealing cup and seeing how that works. But I say these are some really, really small beads. I'd have a really tough time because I can't even really see them.
I will always be importing silver when I'm working with the micro beads.
Yeah. So anyhow, that Eva's got a lot more fun stuff to play with as we get going. Then, assuming that everything goes well, and this summer we get some decent tonnage of some good ore, we'll be increasing our production and stuff, and then the electrolytic debris is going to be more like in fractional ounces, up to 1 ounce per batch. Hey, honey bunny. Tell you what, Lauren, let me make you a moderator too.
And everybody moderators. We will have anarchy.
Let's see if you can post it directly to the chat. That's going to be an interesting question. What do you think, Chris? Will Lauren be able, now that he's a moderator, to get a picture? Or here, let me see if I can do it here. I presume he sent it to my email. I don't see anything, Lauren. If you sent it to my email, it hasn't shown up yet. Let me go back to you. Yeah, well, Eva's going to have to be careful because her back, while getting better, is not tough at this point. We're being very careful on that. What happened, honey bunny? Tachycardia, huh? What caused that? Any idea? But let's say the truck should be in good shape for the start of the season. I've never had that issue, so I'm not sure what it feels like. I have had atrial fibrillation, which was real fun, but that was after heart surgery. Oh, okay. Then you went and got poisoned, huh? Wonderful. No wonder you got issues. Doesn't sound like much fun at all. So, well, it's kind of more dangerous. In my case, I say it was just maybe a week after open heart surgery. So that was the cause. But yeah, it was kind of spooky. I was having real trouble staying conscious. But luckily I was able to crawl to the bed and wake Eva up. And once she was awake and knew I needed help, I could just lay on the floor and relax. And it wasn't too long before we were what, less than a mile from the downtown fire department there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were there pretty quick. But yeah, once I was just laying on the floor, yeah, it wasn't too hard to stay conscious. Getting back to the bedroom was interesting. It's not a bad idea, honey bunny. They also have those implantable defibrillators and stuff. I don't know. You have to talk to your medical professional, but if it's that bad, then that's what they make them for. Yeah, I say, because if you get something really bad, you may not be conscious enough to do what needs to be done. So that all the technology in the world isn't going to do any good when you're unconscious if there's nobody there that knows what's going on. So, but yeah, you should be starting pretty quickly on the fire assaying of ores.
Yeah,
That'll be
I've
interesting.
already done some.
No,
It's not like I haven't done them.
a fire assay of ore.
Yes.
Okay, what size bead did you get?
Itty bitty. It pretty much matched with what's his names. They were microscopic.
Yeah, they're pretty small.
You only listed the micro. You listed the size in thousandths of an inch on my paperwork.
Okay. Who was that said a heart attack is just a muscle cramp? Walk it off.
I mean, you couldn't
Never
even
heard of
see them.
Yeah. Yeah, my father died of a massive heart attack at age 48 when he'd just gotten his first private sector job, 1958, making $300,000 a year. So, yeah, my mom was not a fan of cigarettes, I'll tell you. My brother and I tried to start smoking. It would have been tough to do it through the bruises. Luckily, I've never had the urge to try. I think one time when I was about 7 or 8, had a neighbor whose dad smoked and threw a cigarette on the ground, and I just, that's horrible, and never worried about it again. So, anyhow, yeah, I'm wondering about that. If Lauren is still here, that aquarium heater should be in Thursday, so we'll probably be out there Thursday afternoon. And oh man, that was be bad, honey bunny. But yeah, what do you do? I don't know if heat tape would get you the temperature. We need to go to 55 degrees centigrade, and regular heat tape, I think, might be just a little too much. Plus, we need a fair amount of wattage. I think we'd need something in the neighborhood of 300 watts, just minimum. I think that might be able to get it up to temperature and kind of hold it there. We got a 500 watt heater on the way that will then try and we'll first test it to see how it works as is. But we presume we're probably going to have to modify it a bit so that it doesn't, because I believe it has an internal thermostat, which is going to not want to go that high. So unless it has an option where I can turn it to, continuous on, yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I've done some of the wacky weed too a long time ago. Boy, that new stuff they make, geez, that's some amazing stuff. Yeah, that's my thought, honey bunny. I don't think heat tape is designed to get to the temperature we need. I'm sure you can metal detect this. I got a chunk of steel about this big on this clavicle here. Basically, just a strip with some screw holes in it, some screws into the clavicle. But anyhow, I say we'll get that. Thursday we'll be working on that. Not sure whether or not I did find something that will heat up the stuff to some extent, and that was just a hair dryer, just a blow dryer turning on the reservoir, and I got it up to about 30 degrees centigrade in about 2 hours. And it was starting to move some gold at that point, but also working on one thing that's also happening as I raise the temperature of the solution, the pH goes down. And yeah, that doesn't sound like much fun, honey bunny, but I can understand how that could happen. So then what you got to do is make little things so when somebody punches it, it hurts them. But anyhow, the pH drops significantly when you bring it up to temperature, as in, from 15 degrees centigrade to 30 degrees, 30 a little bit plus degrees centigrade. It went from pH of 1.25 to about a 1.1, So that's significant. This one that I ordered is a 500 watt heater, somewhat similar. I'm not sure what the thing on the top is, but we presume that we're going to have to somehow undo the top, pull out all the safeties and regulatory things and everything, and just hook directly to the input wires to the thermostat, and then hook that to the external. I mean, not to the heating element, and then hook it to the thermostat. That's good, honey bunny. Yep. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad you were able to hang in there until they were not functional. Yeah. Now, you said when you were a professional fighter, was this in a ring or was this something else? I watch professional wrestling, and it's amazing to me they don't get hurt more often. It's amazingly athletic. Okay. Well, the thermocouple underground. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm glad you won. But the problem with an aquarium heater is that it's probably not going to be able to regulate at the kind of temperatures I want. That would cook fish. So I presume it's higher than that, than its range. So that's why we'll probably have to do it. We'll try it anyhow. So it should be okay, one way or the other. If we can get to the guts of stuff without breaking the tube, we should be able to make it work one way or the other. It's only $20. Yeah, something like that, except all the sous vides are now stainless steel. They're expensive too, but they're stainless steel.
See, somebody else said sous vide.
Yep, exactly. So I say we'll work on that. Keith, ladies and gents, I need to go out and do stuff. Okay. Well, the other thing is too, I mean, I was looking for a, basically chemically rated heating element, and those were running like $700. They were there. You can find them. but they get really expensive when you have a Teflon coated over the side heating element.
You used to be able to buy Teflon spray-on coating so you could coat your fry pans and shit.
Yeah.
I don't think you can anymore.
I don't think it would work good enough for what we're doing. Yes, you could make a bath. That would definitely work, honey bunny. Um, you could say you could do a number of things. I'm trying to make it as simple uh, as possible. Yes, you could definitely heat the container, uh, John. That would definitely work. And say I'm trying to make it simple and reproducible. I mean, yeah, if you got a big tub and spaced the bucket off the bottom and then heated the tub, yes, you could definitely do that. But prefer not to. I think you were Honey Bunny's talking about that spray on Teflon, but she says I should have bought a ton of that stuff. It's now impossible to get.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell it went. It actually used to work, which is why they got rid of it.
I would think, Chris, that the enamelware stuff would work fine unless you chipped it. But then then now you wind up if it's sitting on a heating element, then you got more issues running around. Say $20 for an immersion heater is awful hard to beat if we can make it work. And the 500-watt should be adequate, although I'll check that. It's easy to do once we get it up to temperature. But even two 500-watt aquarium heating elements would be reasonable. By the way, I checked the depth of liquid in the reservoir there, and it's 10 inches. And we were estimating the height of that heating element at about 7. So we should be able, with a 1-inch separation off the bottom, we should have 2 inches of freeboard on the top around the heating element. So it should work. It would have to be a really big crock pot, but assuming that uh, you had one big enough for what we're talking about, yeah, that could work if you could throttle it back. I'm not sure if a crock pot works at 140 degrees. I don't know if you can run them that low or not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Low on those is about 140, 150.
See, and that might work fine, but you need a pretty big crock pot for everything else that I've got. I mean, basically it's a 5-gallon bucket. Everything fits in a 5-gallon bucket. So you'd have to have a crock pot big enough to take a 5-gallon bucket with at least an inch or two on each side and an inch on the bottom. And then you could fill, water, and that should work. I don't know why it wouldn't. But again, we're looking to duplicate. So a crock pot big enough to do what we need is going to cost a lot more than $20. So we'll have to see. I need a 500 to 1,000-watt heating element. 1,000 works really well, and I've only got 10 inches of liquid to put it in.
Actually, a crock pot would be fine for that. Our old school one that we had.
That would certainly work also, Honey Bunny. Yep. So yeah, say that's a perfectly feasible system also. It would have to be very chemically resistant, but that might work also, Honey Bunny. That's been our problem. I mean, the stainless steel heating elements have been corroding through in a matter of days. The glass container. say the heating, the thing that I'm using right now is a 5-gallon bucket. It's all built around a 5-gallon bucket, so to speak. In terms of glassware, oh shoot, anything's fine. In terms of the 500-watt heating element, I'd have to look and see exactly what size glass tubing it was in if we needed something like that. Crock pots are quite corrosion resistant. Yeah, but they're not usually 14 inches deep. It might be able to get by with 12 inches. But the cartridges are, this long, and you need to be able to set that in there. How big a beaker? The biggest beakers we're using is 2,000 mil beakers. We got one of those. We could use a couple of them, and maybe a couple 1,000 mil beakers. If you got smaller, some few small ones, maybe that sort of thing, that would be cool. But say we're doing pretty good on that. But yeah, we could use another 2,000 mil beaker because we only have one. If it breaks, there's certain operations where it comes in real handy, and life would kind of suck. Although we, use something else. But that's where we're sitting. To do the stripping circuit, well, let's see. Right now I have, and I quote, 3 times 4 equals plus 1,400. 3 times 4 equals times 1,000 plus 1,400. The amount of volume I'm using in the bucket right now is in the neighborhood of about 14 liters. Pretty big for a beaker. Cool, Kodak. Yeah, I need to check. I should probably get to check on we got something called Carroll College here, and I think we also have a community college, a state community college here too. I should probably check on that, see what geology department and things like that. They might have resources that would come in handy. But yeah, it's one of those deals where say the stripping circuit. Lauren came up with a really good idea on how to put things together. How much do big glass pickle jars go for? They're not big enough for what I'm using. Oh, and what I really need is a multi-channel peristaltic variable speed pump.
I know exactly what we need.
What?
A sauerkraut crock. They make them in the size of our stock pot if you want one that big.
Might work. They're heavy and they break. But again, it's not the pot that's the problem. It's the heating element that's the problem.
Yeah, we actually need an industrial size crock pot.
No, we just need a quartz heater. Let's see what we got here. Chris says a 5-gallon big mouth bubbler EVO. That's a big glass container, but I say we the way we've got things set up, and when I can show you people exactly how it's done, you can see. But I mean, the whole thing evolves. I can do 3 cartridges at a whack. All I need is a bigger pump at the present time, and that's technologically not difficult. Again, the container is not a problem. 5-gallon bucket works fine as a container. It's the damn heating element that's killing me. You know, heating bands on that, huh? Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The stainless steel eats through and precipitates gold. So, he had a chance to buy a Zeiss electron microscope for $1,200, but he didn't have a place to put it. Wow.
I want it.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know where
I
put
could
it.
use a good binocular microscope, John. Keep your eyes open for those if they get one. I could really use one.
I have no idea where I put it, but I want it anyway.
Possibly Honey Bunny. Again, the smaller, lighter, and more compact, the better. Let's say if $20 will work, that'll be fine because it'll fit in the bucket, you know. And so that's what I'm doing. There's lots of ways to make this happen.
Small solutions, things that take up 1 square foot of space,
and something that can be put in a tote, packaged up, and shipped out to somebody, and
won't cost
shows up,
$300 in shipping.
You know, and everything like that. Yeah, I may see about doing that here in a bit, John. Right now, all the money's going to the truck. The steering box on that has been leaking for a while, and that's causing secondary problems because you get power steering fluid on stuff, and it tends to corrode rubber, etc. And so it's like, okay, with the engine out, that'd be a good time to change out the steering box. So I was at Napa, and I asked them, and it was like $960, and I'm like, that seems pretty pricey. He goes, well, it's brand new with a lifetime warranty, and I'm like, well, I'm 67 years old. Lifetime warranty doesn't mean that much to me. And so I checked, and see, they didn't. That was a brand new one, not a rebuilt. Rebuilt, I can get. Let's see, O'Reilly's has it for 183. CarQuest has it for 209. CarQuest is the $76 core. O'Reilly didn't mention the core, but I'm sure there is one. But you know, it's like, okay, $200. Okay, that sounds reasonable. But you know, by the time it'll be, you know, $300 by the time we get the new pump and reservoir and hoses and just replace everything, because I've run that pump low on fluid too many times. But let's say that's
Bugs is a good boy.
Let's say we'll get it all fixed up so that, you know, work on a number of issues, and you know, it'll be better for this season than it's been for several years. So we should be in good shape.
Bugs is a good boy.
That's not necessarily a bad idea, Chris, although again, I don't know how long I'm going to last, to say nothing of the truck. I mean, it's a 76. It's, you know, what, almost half a century old now?
Bugs will be rolling forever.
Yeah.
There are vehicles from the 1920s that are still rolling.
So, be that as it may, we'll get fixed up. The rear spring shackle mounts are also cracked a little bit, and so I'm going to see how much new mounts cost. If they're not terribly expensive, we'll see about cutting the old ones off and bolting new ones on. If they're real expensive, we'll just see about welding them up, because they just little cracks, you know, on one side, and that's something we should be able to gouge and weld up. Yeah, I understand, Chris. Rock Auto Online. Okay,
Rock Auto is a good website. Hard to navigate.
Rock Auto Online.
Just to warn you. It can be
Oops,
odd
sorry.
to navigate.
Let's see. Rock Auto Online. I'll check it out. It's not the spring shackles, it's the mounts. The parts that are riveted to the frame that the spring shackles hook into. And so we'll see. There's a place called Swain Springs in Great Falls that has, a pretty good selection at reasonable prices. I've already got new spring shackles with bushings already installed in them, plus bushings for the springs themselves. But there's no sense doing that work until we are ready to, deal with the mounts. I'll check on it. Lauren was saying, we need to replace the mounts. He's definitely a good welder, so I'm not worried about it. But as a matter of fact, we may have a weld off between him and my son-in-law, because apparently he's a pretty good welder too. That would be kind of fun. But as I say, I'll see how much they cost, and talk to Lauren and such, because by the time we grind off the rivets on the old ones and bolt the new ones on, then we'll see what it is. If they're like $50-$60 each, we'll probably just weld them up. If there's John, I presume you mean just replacing them? I say if they're only like $20 each, we should be able, again, just to grind off the rivets, pop them out, and bolt on new ones. Yeah. I say we'll see what they cost for new ones, but that way we know they'd be in top-notch shape. So again, we'll take a look at it. But I've got the rear shackles and all the bushings and stuff. Front bushings we already changed. We don't need to pay a big dollar welder. Lauren is a good welder. What do you need? MIG, TIG, stick? He's got it in his shop, ready to go. He's the only guy I know that's got 100 feet of oxyacetylene line on an overhead reel. Literally just, he can go anywhere in his shop, maybe only 50 feet, I don't know. But he just drags the torch out, uses it wherever he needs it. 3/4 ton. It's a 76 K20 with a camper special, Cheyenne, with a 400 V8 and automatic transmission. Yeah, he's pretty good, Honey Bunny. He's pretty smart and got a lot of tools and stuff. And 50 feet of hose is kind of the minimum. But again, he's got it on an overhead reel. That makes it real handy. But yeah, you say he's got MIG, TIG, plasma, the whole nine stuff. So yeah, he's pretty well set up. He's got a very nice shop, well equipped, and he knows how to use all his stuff. He's done a lot of professional welding in the past. So yeah, he knows how to do it. And say we'll just have to see if they're fairly cheap. Shouldn't be too much. I presume that John is looking up those shackle mounts. Yeah, 300 feet would take a pretty big reel if you had it on a reel. Although that you can just hook it up over some posts and stuff. So that wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, he knows how to use his stuff. He's pretty good. I mean, he knows a lot more than I do about it. Of course, that's the way it is with a lot of stuff. Well, another thing, Honey Bunny, somebody, I think it was a T-shirt that somebody was selling, but it says, "Never piss off an old man. The term life in prison doesn't mean what it used to." uh, but anyhow, so as I say, we got a lot of stuff to do. Okay, that sounds good, Honey Bunny. I was pretty pleased that I was able to get a good video of the play of colors on that last video too. Um, it was it's hard to see on the screen on the camera. You know, all you can see is there's a glowing dot there or whatever. The nuance is lost on the little LCD screen. But
it's pretty.
It did well. So that play of colors and the blick, that came through real nicely. I was very pleased with that. And unfortunately, like an idiot, I didn't zoom back out again. So there was some other stuff there that I just had to completely edit out before the last of the video there that you saw. You noticed it was awfully zoomed in there, and then just at the last zoomed out. Yeah, that was doofus here. Yeah, we're having fun, but it's so annoying having to wait to get parts where you're like, okay, I could do something if. Cool, Honey Bunny. Yeah, that blick was pretty good. It was easily visible, starting at $33. Yeah, I would imagine that would be about what it was for Swain Springs. And then the other question is, and this becomes one of these things, and I think I know what the goddess is going to say on this, but we could have them ship them down here, or we could drive up to what do you call it, Great Falls, to pick them up.
Well, of course we'll drive up to Great Falls. Hello?
Yeah, because we didn't get to do as much shopping as we wanted to last time due to the
alternator.
We thought it was the alternator. I thought it was the alternator. Turned out it was the tensioner pulley. But there was definitely an accessory bearing starting to squeak. And so I got an alternator and just drove back to Helena because we didn't want to be on the road when something went bad. And yeah, Lauren had the tools to get that little nut way up behind there.
Yeah, he had a thing
tensioner pulley, you know. And I say,
they're be getting tool envy.
He's pretty good, pretty darn good. And he and Jim rebuilt the front end of Jim's truck last week too. You know. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that, Honey Bunny. That was pretty good. So that's something else we could maybe do. Let's see, tomorrow's Tuesday. I don't know what's going on, but maybe Wednesday if we don't have anything else lined up. Because with this darn weather, I need to get out the ranch and get some measurements on the Stutenroth so we can build a little, crane to hoist up the shell, the upper part of the shell when we need to work on it. And I just need a couple of dimensions, and then we could design it and build it and everything. But without that, and then the road out there is, if I had the truck operation, no big deal, 4-wheel drive, but with a minivan, it's a little less off-road capable, so to speak. So we shall see. But yeah, we could go up to Swain Springs. Yeah, and Lauren had one, John. That's how we found out for sure. So, um, yeah, I took the alternator back and got them. Those are expensive alternators, $230. Damn. Yeah, I agree, Honey Bunny. I don't mind the rain or the snow or whatever. It's just when it gets in the way of me getting other stuff done, it gets annoying. One thing that is kind of tough is when it gets really cold here. It's just absurd. Minus 20, minus 30 degrees. Then you have pipes breaking, and life gets really unpleasant at times. Yeah, for real, Honey Bunny. $230 at AutoZone for a 95 amp alternator for that Grand Caravan. Yeah. Oh, if alternator on my pickup, $65. Yeah. Actually, here in Helena, it's not really in the mountains. We got to kind of go through mountains unless we head out towards Bozeman. Bozeman, we got just a little gentle rise to go over, and then we're in the Missouri River Valley, and that takes us all the way to Interstate 95, and then from there it's pretty flat to Bozeman. But yeah, there's mountain ranges we got to go over something to Great Falls, Missoula, Butte, every one of them got mountains to go over. But well, let's see. North and south is freeway. West, it's a good 2-lane highway. Okay, in that case, I mean, we're at, what is the elevation here? We were talking about this the other day, and I'm not sure. Elevation of Helena, Montana. Oh, 4,000 feet. I thought it was about 5,000. It was 4,000 feet. Okay. So, it's not bad. Oh, but yeah, that's something we could do maybe Wednesday if we don't have anything else to do. I'd like to get some more hours in. I'd like to get all that resin done. We also are going to take some of the resin we've already stripped and rerun it using the new cartridge stripper and see whether or not it gets more gold out of it. Let me see if Lauren ever sent me a picture. There it is. Okay. So here's a picture. Yep. I still got a lot of gold out of there. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Electronic genius peoples. We do have new resin. We have plenty of new resin, but it would be more efficient in the long run to be reusing stuff. And so, and with today's supply chains, who knows when you can get new stuff too. Okay, who out there? Is there anyone watching? I have a picture that was sent to me by Lauren, and I would like to post it with a link or something here.
You may actually have to upload it to Imgur first.
Okay. Let's see.
Which I can sincerely tell you is a pain in the butt, but.
Yeah, because see, little one, those plates are looking just like they were before.
See.
See?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
They is gold.
Yep. I don't know. Not sure how I could post that where people could see it tonight.
Like I said,
That
the
would
only
be
way I
kind
can
of.
think of is upload it to Imgur and post it in Imgur.
I think there's a way, and I don't know if I can do it because there's a thing here which shows the camera and it says you don't have access to this feature. So I'm really not sure. Pop out dashboard. Okay, folks, I'm going to try this. Links are shaky on screw lube. Finish telling me what you're looking for. I've got Lauren sent me a picture in an email, and I'd like to show you guys the picture. Now I'm sure I can download it to my cool honey bunny. That would be nice. as we were saying, just be careful. Let's see. So first thing I have to do is I want to save image as go to raw video 3. It's a JPEG. Save. Thumbnail. Let me see if it's there. Oh, I just hate computers. Yep, it's there. It's in my computer now. See, I just don't know how to show it to you folks because it looks kind of pretty. Be a good idea to keep it confidential, honey. Create a folder, then export to chat. How do I do that, John?
Explain it like he's 4.
I've got, do I need to do a folder or just that picture itself? Do I need to make a separate folder just for that picture? Because I have the file, the JPEG document. Okay, export to chat, huh? Cool. Let's see.
I have no idea, so don't ask me.
Let's see if I can copy it to chat. Copy. Close this. Put it here. Paste. Well, it won't paste it to chat. I hit copy. I have a paste option when I right click on the chat bar. Paste is dark, but it's not taking it. It's not going into the chat. Don't know why. Okay, John, do you have any idea? Create a folder, then export to chat. Well, I said I made a copy of it, and it won't take the copy to chat.
That's not export.
Well, I don't know. Let's see.
I don't know how to do it.
Let's see. Documents, raw video. There it is. Edit, open, print, open with. I don't see any export options here. If anyone knows, let me know.
Well, you may need that OBS software, and we don't have it.
Yeah, so I have no idea. I'll try and put it on the thumbnail for next week, so it'll be easy to find. Yeah, say I don't know. It would be nice to have simple options. Yeah, pretty much, honey bunny. I would agree with that. Oh, it is kind of funny watching some of the shenanigans running around right now. Oh, after create a folder or document, got that. Like file, edit, top of your screen. Let's see. Have to create a folder or document. I got the document. Then export. Let's see. Raw video. Go to this. Thumbnail. Edit. Rotate. Delete. Add to favorites. File info. Share. Okay, so share to nearby. Okay. Copy file. Minimize that. Close that. I have no freaking clue. Paste. I have no idea. Post it later in chat post live. Like file edit, huh? Yeah, good luck on that one. Well, I don't think you guys want me to watch while you're doing stuff, but I can try real quick. Let's see. Like 2.5 minutes. Turn the sound down a little. How to add an image? YouTube comment box. Okay. We'll click there. Open Gmail account.
Yeah, you need email.
Open Google Drive. Now, don't have that stuff.
Don't use that stuff. You
Yep.
do have it. We just don't use it. You have a Gmail account. You're signed into your Gmail account on your YouTube.
Yeah, there's a number of things. I'll probably have to change stuff to where it's on my Google Drive, which I never, ever want to use. Because every time you use it once, everything goes there instead of my computer. Drives me crazy. Then I go try and find it. And it's like, where the fuck is it?
Yeah, we still have to figure out what to do about
You
your
know.
OneDrive.
I say, could you please just leave my computer alone? Let me do everything on my computer. And if I want to share something, do it like that.
So we can email the picture to everybody.
Hey, John, you're a moderator now. You want me to send you this picture and then see if you can get it done? Because that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, he says, oh, hell no.
So I can do that. Yeah, exactly, John. Said, get so tired of them making stuff difficult. They should have a little link up here that says share a something, you know, and then you could just go and share it, you know. So that would be way too simple. Share a picture, split screen, something like that. You know, that would make things simple, which is of course why YouTube can't do it.
Why in the world would they want to make things?
I'm sure I can do that, honey bunny, if I wanted to spend the time, effort, and give the government even more information. I'm going to try sending it to John because John TF. Okay. So I can just do this one.
Don't say the email address out loud.
And let's see, hit forward. Okay. There you go, John. It should be in your box. See what you can do there. Anyhow, I think John will find that a kind of a pretty picture there. And by the way, that's without any electricity being applied. That's just precipitation. No, that's direct cementation of some sort, John. The power supply was not hooked up to anything. The wires weren't even in underneath the exhaust hood there. You've been banned 12 times? Man, you deserve an award. It was
Banned from what?
YouTube. We were watching a documentary on the USS Franklin, carrier in World War II. They got whacked pretty good and fires and this and that and the other. And they had one guy who was in a compartment near the back of the ship and managed to find a way through various passageways and stuff out. So once he got out, he got another breathing apparatus and went back in and led like 50 guys out. And then he went back in and led, this other stuff. And I mean, he got all the guys out, like 300 guys. And even I were both saying, well, that guy should have gotten a Congressional Medal of Honor. And then surely he received the Congressional Medal of Honor. And it's like, yeah, I'm thinking, Yeah, I'm not sure if it's through some kind of auto galvanic action or through direct cementation ion replacement sort of stuff, John. But you can see the gold's plating out pretty good. The weird sheet metal things you see are the heat shield off of that heater, that had in that video. I just, because I was cutting it off and then trying to spray it, coat it, which didn't work too well. And so I thought, hey, it precipitates gold, put it in the electrolytic cell.
Clean too.
And yeah, say that stuff, it looks like it's a pretty good coating, but you can literally just wipe it off with your finger. Okay, it's really lightly adhered, so it makes it real easy to clean right off, and that makes it pretty simple to uh, service the electrolytic cell. And we're trying to see whether or not that might be a better way to do it in the long run. You know, I don't know. It's just stainless. The 2-inch wide strip, no holes or anything. That's 304 stainless, according to Lauren. It's cut out of a sheet. And the other two, I'm not sure what that is. That came attached to that heating element. So I am not sure. But anyhow, so you see why I thought people would like to see that. Uh-oh, I see some cat ears in the background. Oh, okay, John. See if you can get that thing hooked up somehow.
Howdy, howdy, everybody. So,
Oh, it's snowing still.
it is interesting in the news lately. I hope your banks are doing as well as our totally local, in state only banks that are in nice, normal condition. Beyond that, in case you missed the news, hi, honey bunny, outlier, you want a bank that is in state or local only, or a credit union that is in state or local only. Because Yellen the felon said that basically, she said, well, that's true, honey, but if you have to have a bank, you want as small and local as possible. Because bear in mind, Yellen the felon said that they're picking and choosing which banks they bail out. So the banks they decide are too big to fail are the ones that are populated with Democrat donors and diversity, equity, and inclusion types, and the banks they like. They're already planning to let a lot of regional banks fail if the contagion spreads so that the big banks can buy them out at yard sale prices. That's what's up with that. Okay. So you want as small and local a bank as possible. Our bank is First Montana, which is an in state only bank. And yes, absolutely, honey. New World Order, among other things, I'll tell you that. Well, in case you missed the news in the nickel market, over there in Brussels or Belgium or one of those places in Europe, LME, our dear London Metals Exchange people, had a warehouse that ostensibly was full of nickel that belonged to people. Well, it turned out a whole lot of that nickel wasn't nickel at all. When they opened the bags were full of rocks. This was a surprise to absolutely everyone. Of course, the goddess has questions about this because if the goddess were running a metals repository and accepting physical metals that the goddess was going to be delivering to other people who had purchased them, the goddess would be wanting full assays and the goddess would be wanting good bars of all kinds with chains of custody. Apparently, LME is not quite that picky.
We're smart.
As a result, they discovered they had a whole bunch of rocks when they were supposed to have a whole bunch of nickel. So, following up on this lovely story, since people were wondering who the hell owned this nickel, it turns out that this nickel, which is nothing but rocks, okay, is owned by none other than our friends at JP Morgan. So let's look into this. JP Morgan owned the LME nickel that was actually bags of stones. It wasn't even apparently ore, Okay. I can see trying to pass off bags of nickel ore as nickel because then if you ran like an XRF over it, it would say nickel
Some assembly
or something
required.
like that. But apparently it was just rocks. Okay. J.P. Morgan Chase and Company owned the London Metal Exchange nickel contracts that turned out to be backed by bags of stones rather than nickel, according to people familiar with the matter. Ooh. One step up from standard anonymous sources there. The LME last week announced it had canceled 9 nickel contracts worth about $1.3 million after discovering irregularities at a certain warehouse, which Bloomberg has reported was owned by Access World. The news has been met with shock in the metals world because LME contracts are generally viewed as beyond question. Now, mind you, these are the same dudes who canceled 8 hours of trading and all the contracts that went with it and set up written down price controls to tell people that they control the price on their market. Yet their metals are viewed as beyond question. So let's see. We have shady business practices. We have shady contract practices. And now we have shady metals. The goddess is totally unsurprised. Okay? J.P. Morgan was the owner of the 9 invalidated contracts, according to people familiar with the matter. The bank registered the bags of material as being delivered against LME contracts in early 2022, said the people, who asked not to be identified discussing private information. There's no suggestion that J.P. Morgan did anything wrong this time. The material was already inside Access World's Rotterdam warehouse, where the bank brought it several years ago, according to one of the people. Still, its central role in another nickel crisis will be a headache for the bank. Oh dear. The smallest violin in the world is playing a song of sympathy right now. J.P. Morgan's commodities business has been under scrutiny since last year's nickel short squeeze on the LME, when it played a key part as the largest counterparty to Chinese tycoon Jiang Wanda's short position. J.P. Morgan declined to comment. If you can't say something honest, don't say anything. The bank's ownership of the 9 invalidated nickel warrants was first reported by Fast Markets. Access World said it is expecting the warranted bags of nickel briquettes at all its locations, but believes the issue that led to the 9 warrants being suspended is an isolated case and specific to one warehouse in Rotterdam. It is not clear whether the bags ever contained nickel and whether the issue is a result of error, theft, or fraud. Under the LME's rules, warehouses are responsible for inspecting and verifying the metal. So the crooks don't have a trust but verify process in place themselves? My. That's ridiculous. They're counting on honor among thieves? Warehouses are required to hold insurance, while physical metals traders typically are insured against risks such as theft. The discovery has set off a wider scramble across the metals world, with warehouse companies racing over the weekend to reinspect and reweigh thousands of tons of metal after LME asked them to verify all the nickel currently on warrant. Notice they only said all the nickel. The LME has also been carrying out its own inspections in Europe and Asia, one of the people said. So far, the mass inspection has found no other issues with LME material, the person said. J.P. Morgan is the leading bank in metals markets, but it has been at the center of several high-profile crises in the last year. It reported a $120 million loss related to nickel a year ago in the wake of the short squeeze centered on Xiang and his company, Xinjiang Holding Group Company. It also had a financing relationship with Chinese copper trader Maiki Metals International Limited, which ran into trouble last summer and last month said it was working on a debt restructuring. Bloomberg reported last year J.P. Morgan was reviewing its commodities exposure. the goddess has lost track of how many hundreds of millions of dollars in fines JP Morgan and company and various employees have paid over the last couple of decades for manipulating the prices of metals, specifically silver and gold, but it's looking like all metals are on the table at this point. Tisk, tisk, tisk. First Majestic stock plunges as it shuts down Jarrett Canyon gold mine in Nevada. Ooh boy. First Majestic Silver is taking action to reduce overall costs by temporarily suspending all mining activities and reducing its workforce at the Jarrett Canyon gold mine in Nevada, effective immediately. Really? Shares of First Majestic were down 16.1% in after hours trading Monday on the latest development, taking the precious metal miner's market value to $2 billion in New York. The Jarrett Canyon operation, which comprises a fully permitted processing plant and 2 producing mines, open pit and underground, was originally expected to produce between 119 and 133,000 ounces of gold this year. Over the past 22 months since its acquisition of Jarrett Canyon, the company has been focused on increasing underground mining rates to sustainably feed the processing plant at a minimum of 3,000 tons per day in order to generate free cash flow. Despite these efforts, mining rates have remained below this threshold, First Majestic said, and cash costs per ounce have remained higher than anticipated, primarily due to ongoing challenges such as contractor inefficiencies and high costs, inflationary cost pressures, lower than expected head grades. Boy, we know that problem. And multiple extreme weather events affecting northern Nevada, which have compounded conditions and caused material headwinds for the operation. The decision to temporarily suspend mining activities at Jarrett Canyon, which represented approximately 21% of the company's 2022 revenue, was driven by our goal to produce profitable ounces across the company, CEO Keith Neumeyer said in a news release. He noted that while mining activities have temporarily stopped, processing of the remaining surface stockpiles will still happen over the next couple of months. During the suspension, the company intends to process approximately 45,000 tons of above-ground stockpiles through the plants at Jarrett Canyon. The company will continue exploring both near mine and prospective regional greenfield targets to grow Jarrett Canyon's resources, which we believe will significantly enhance the economics for the eventual restart of operations. Acquired from Sprott Mining, for those who aren't familiar, Sprott is the same dude behind PSLV, the physical silver company that stores their silver in the Royal Canadian Mint vaults, just so you know. The Jarrett Canyon property covers 30,821 hectares of mining claims in Nevada. The Jarrett Canyon deposit was discovered in 1972, and first gold production occurred from the open pit in 1981, then underground in 1997. The property contains an estimated 1.6 million ounces of gold in measured and indicated resources, really now, 8.55 million tons grading 5.84 grams per ton of gold, plus 1.25 million ounces of gold in inferred deposits. 6.93 million tons grading 5.61 grams per ton of gold. Interesting. We shall keep an eye on that. The goddess actually really approves of First Majestic's business model because they are one of the few gold mining and silver mining companies that also has a retail branch. If you happen to be a stockholder and you happen to have, I think it's 100 shares, you can buy their silver and their products that they have minted for them by mints like Scottsdale and Sunshine at a lower premium than you pay for ordinary silver. And it's pretty stuff too. I do like their business model, but I sometimes have to question their common sense because land status is going to come back and bite them in the butt. Some of their largest properties are on U.S. Forest Service claims. And they're thrilled at being able to get permission to drill one hole to test for things per 10 hectares on one of their claims down in Nevada from the U.S. Forest Service. But given that Lord Malarkey is shutting down mines right, left, and sideways, it's really, really not a good idea to have most of your most valuable resources located on land somebody else owns. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, and this applies triple to mining claims. Okay? Gold price backs off after surpassing $2,000, nearing a record high. Yeah, gold has been on a little bit of a tear the last couple of days. It may or may not have something to do with all this financial banking thing that's going on that everybody is studiously ignoring, of course. Gold prices backed off from the key $2,000 level on Monday as investors assess the health of the global banking sector, which we'll get into here, even as increasing bets of a Federal Reserve rate pause kept bullion near a one-year peak. Earlier, spot gold climbed 1.6% to its highest since March 2022 at $2,009.59 per ounce, just short of a record set during the onset of the pandemic. By noon Eastern Time, it reversed to a 0.6% loss at $1,977.42 per ounce. U.S. gold futures, meanwhile, rose to $1,978 per ounce in New York. Gold's volatility reflects that the market is digesting the recent shotgun wedding between Credit Suisse and UBS and the possible contagion. Independent analyst Ross Norman told Reuters. Prices have rallied more than $100 after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank earlier this month, the second largest banking crisis in U.S. history, which also ensnared 167-year-old lender Credit Suisse. Europe's bank shares fought back from an early slump, led by UBS Group's rescue deal to buy Credit Suisse, failed to assuage market fears of a global banking contagion, sending their shares sharply lower. Bullion touched record highs in some currencies on Monday and near an all-time peak in U.S. dollars on the back of the latest banking sector turmoil, which sent safe haven demand skyrocketing. It skyrocketed at our LCS. When we went in to buy today, the place was half empty. I mean, wide spaces between the coins, and they had rearranged things. They had things where they normally weren't to fill up empty spaces. Very interesting that was. It's all about risk hedging, said StoneX analyst Rona O'Connell. A Swiss bank is supposed to be the be-all and end-all of safe havens. Yeah, I mean, the Swiss will bank with anybody. If something else happens in the banking sector, you can expect gold to go higher. Investors will keenly watch a Fed policy decision due on Wednesday. Traders are now pricing in a 49% chance of the Fed holding rates in the current range. Ole Hansen, head of commodity strategy at Saxo Bank, told Bloomberg the outcome of this week's Fed meeting is going to be the most difficult to predict in years. A shift to a more dovish outlook from policymakers at a time when inflation remains hot could push gold even higher. Today's rejection above 2,000 may trigger some profit taking, but in our opinion, not a change in direction, Hansen said in a separate note to Reuters. We maintain a bullish outlook for gold, especially if the FOMC, driven by current banking and liquidity crisis, is forced to change its focus away from fighting inflation to maintaining stability. So, what in the world is going on? So we have Credit Suisse, which actually had a value on paper of about 10 times the GDP of the entire nation of Switzerland. And we had USB, which is a central bank's bank clearinghouse type thing. Okay. And USB floated a rescue deal for Credit Suisse that, of course, left all of the stockholders bag holders. They got it for like 17 freaking % of the value. I mean, they got it at yard sale prices. Now,
initially, it looked like this deal might falter, at which time the Swiss government floated the idea that they were considering nationalizing Credit Suisse. This didn't go over well for some bizarre and unaccountable reason. So now USB, which is kind of a central bank for banks, has bought out Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse was hip deep in the mess with Silicon Valley Bank, which, by the way, it turns out was run by a diversity and inclusion and equity squad of political operatives, Obama supporters, and very, very strange, totally woke leftist people. They had one whole person on their board that had any connection with finances at all. Go figure. Who knew that the only qualification you needed to run a bank was checking off the appropriate intersectional boxes? Who knew? Well, Credit Suisse was butt deep in that mess. The government of Norway was butt deep in that mess. A whole bunch of other people were butt deep in that mess. And so now, of course, Silicon Valley Bank is done got bailed out somehow. We shall see what happens there. They got bought, I think it was for $1 by somebody. Okay? So they're magically all better again. New clean slate here. Totally cool. First Republic went bye-bye or something like that. I have not watched Yankee Stacking yet, Kodak. I would absolutely love to watch that channel more often than I do. I've seen a couple of his videos. His videos show up on the Reddit sub that I moderate now. So, I have seen his videos, but I'm not subscribed and I haven't been watching them regularly, but they are really freaking cool. So in the middle of all this stuff, a joint announcement emerged from the ivory towers of fiat finance heaven. The FDIC and the EU, the EC Bank, the European Commerce Bank, and the Bank of Canada, and I believe the Bank of Japan, and the Bank of England were all co-signers on this wonderful piece of paper. Now, if you want to read this piece of paper, it's over on the Conservative Treehouse, which is a site everybody should be reading anyway. But to make a long story short, they announced that all is well. We now have stability, and this is why. You see, they have this weird system that I believe they call dollar liquidity swaps or something. Anyway, the way this works is there's a giant pool of US fiat dollars digitally sitting around. And these banks that are having liquidity problems loan piles of these dollars back and forth on the dang computer. And once a week, when the dust settles, they fix the books so that everybody looks liquid. Well, to enhance the stability of the banking world and to ensure that there are no liquidity problems for the little guy, that's what they said, they're now going to be doing that settling up daily instead of weekly. And they're now removing all the caps, limitations, and red tape and paperwork that went behind shuffling this pile of imaginary fiat back, forth, sideways, and up people's butts. This definitely, totally inspires confidence that the banking system is so stable that they now have to remove a lot of checks and balances and take the brakes off the train and allow people to do this 24/7 and settle the accounts by the day instead of by the week. The goddess is not exactly inspired with confidence at this. And just saying, this does not strike the goddess as a power move. It is not an example of big DICK energy. In fact, it's not even an example of small DICK energy as far as the goddess can see. It looks like they're scared shitless, especially when you add in Yellen the felon, making it very clear in several statements over the past week that, oh, the big guys, JP Morgan, Bank of America, etc., are too big to fail, so naturally they'll be bailed out. And a lot of our friends that are in certain critical industries and dealing with certain critical international countries are going to be bailed out. And people that Joseph Biden and Governor Newsom banked with, like Silicon Valley Bank, are going to be bailed out. But naturally, we can't bail out all the regional banks, and we can't bail out all the mid-sized banks. They're just going to have to be bought out by the big boys. Well, it should occur to anyone who has more sense than God gave a doorknob. What?
Doorknob.
Yeah, okay.
I'm doing my.
It should be clear to anybody who has more sense than God gave a doorknob that consolidating all of our banking into 2, 3, or 4 banks that are too big to fail is a monumentally stupid idea to begin with. Okay? We saw this during the pandemic in another industry sector, in the meat processing industry sector. Some of you may remember when the media were trumpeting about beef processors making 300% profits and price gouging, which they were not, by the way, but the headlines were there. You may remember beef randomly disappearing and tripling in price. And the American people, at least some of them, found out something that a lot of us already knew, that all of the beef processing in the United States is funneled through about 5 hubs. And 4 of those hubs got shut down by COVID BS. And 3 of them are wholly owned by foreign agents and outside actors. You see, this is what happens when you allow consolidation to the degree that you only have 1 or 2 of something. That multiplies your problems, and that makes an opportunity for people to get screwed over. Okay? Now, elsewhere in the banking news, rumors are persistent and growing, and anecdotal reports and whistleblowers on the inside at Wells Fargo that all is not well at Wells Fargo. The next time the Wells Fargo wagon comes down your street, it may not have much money in it. Just saying. And there is a growing, persistent rumor that HSBC might actually be having liquidation trouble. They may be having a few liquidity issues. The goddess finds this fascinating because HSBC is the bank of choice for black ops, black bag government crap, drug cartels, human traffickers, and black market arms dealers. If they're in trouble, we really have a financial problem because they're not usually the kind of people that get in trouble. But that is their primary income source. So we shall see what we shall see about that issue. All in all, this whole banking, this slow motion banking meltdown is getting pretty darn interesting. If you haven't already pulled some fiat out of the bank and stuck it under the mattress, now might be a good time to do so. Now, let's see what else is going on in the news, so to speak. U.S. banking system faces a worsening crisis in confidence. The goddess is sure that none of us had any confidence in banks to begin with. But, sheeple will be sheeple. The national news cycle has careened from one extraordinary and alarming story to the next. From the arrest of our president, potentially happening on Tuesday, through the climate crisis, through the Ukraine crisis, through Vlad the invader, having an arrest warrant issued against him, which obviously has him trembling in his boots. And it will be hanging over his head until the end of time. The poor man probably can't sleep at night now, Then one horrible news story to the next. The brewing crisis in banks remains front and center. Well, not really. A lot of things are not being said about that. Americans are watching a demonstration on how to take a crisis in confidence and make it worse. Many Americans have already lost trust in the FBI and the DOJ. The goddess questions anyone who's trusted them since Vietnam. So, they don't trust Janet Yellen and other bureaucrats in Washington. Gee, I wonder why. And they don't trust Wall Street bankers. Gee, I wonder why. The ongoing erosion of trust may be the most fundamental of all problems the country faces. It is playing larger and larger roles in everything from elections to the administration of justice to finance. The current troubles in banking may be a signal that confidence has slid past the point where it can be recovered. Officials called an emergency meeting following the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and extended the FDIC guarantee to cover bank deposits larger than $250,000. Americans were supposed to think all deposits were safe, but they were not comforted. Bank stock declines continued, as did deposit flights from small bank to big bank. And this is where people are making their fundamental mistake. Never, ever, ever take your money from a small local bank and put it in a big bank. If it hasn't already dawned on you, the big banks are criminal enterprises. Now, mind you, small banks are crooks too, quite frequently, but at least they're small local crooks, so you can hunt them down and egg their house if they fuck you over. You may have noticed JP Morgan, B of A, etc. are untouchable. What happens every time there is a major scandal with these yo-yos, where tens or hundreds of millions of dollars go missing and go poof, like the B of A Zelly scandal? We've heard nothing. There have been no fines. There have been no criminal charges. A lot of those people never got their money back. And Zelly and B of A are just sitting here going like this, okay? JP Morgan, B of A, Wells Fargo have been taking turns for decades manipulating metals prices, not just gold and silver, all metals prices. The only reason they don't do it with other commodities is because they can't get away with it, okay? What happens? Do they get banned from banking? Do any of these yo-yos go to jail? No. They pay a fine that amounts to 1/10 of 1% of the profits they make, and then they go right back to doing the same thing. Why would you move your money to an untouchable bank? That's a great way to get screwed, okay?
Rocks are cheap, honey bunny.
Meanwhile, Janet Yellen admitted in testimony before Congress last week the program was really more of a selective guarantee. A committee will first have to determine whether a bank's failure represents a risk of contagion before deposits are 100% guaranteed. And this is why they're going to fuck over the regional banks and the little banks. And don't get me started on what may be going on with credit unions. They have an insurance plan too, and it's a lot harder to get information on. Because they figure if JP Morgan goes poof, panic. If Bank of America goes poof, panic. Even if an online-only place like Chime or Ally goes poof, panic. Whereas if First Montana goes poof, nobody's going to care except those of us who bank with First Montana. This is why we have the problem we do, okay? Part of fighting that problem is to do exactly the opposite that these yo-yos recommend at every opportunity, okay? A committee will first have to determine whether a bank's failure represents a risk of contagion before deposits are 100% guaranteed. The implication is that the wealthy, well-connected, and woke account holders of Silicon Valley Bank are covered. But ranchers, farmers, and small businesses working with community banks or credit unions are not. Last week, a group of large banks volunteered to deposit $30 billion in First Republic Bank. Investors were not reassured by this show of confidence. Shares in the Trolled Bank fell another 30% on Friday and another 20% this morning. The story is similar for Credit Suisse. The bank got an emergency loan of almost $54 billion from the Swiss National Bank. Bank executives said they were accepting the loan only out of an abundance of caution. And it really wasn't needed. But once again, investors called BS and the stock price for the banking giant collapsed. If you have to rely on your stock prices to stay in business, then you are not doing business honestly. Okay? Seriously. Last week, overnight borrowing at the Fed's discount window hit a new record. Gee, why am I not surprised? Far surpassing the prior peak set at the height of the 2008 financial crisis. Many experts consider this to be one of the best indicators of how uneasy bankers themselves are about the state of their industry. The efforts to backstop the banks and placate investors don't appear to be working. The people behind them must be surprised and frustrated. Throwing loads of money at a problem has worked reliably in the past. Money can help banks weather a liquidity crunch and shore up the deposit base. It does not address a solvency problem that may exist. And it can't put a stop to the skepticism people now have toward bankers, politicians, and bureaucrats. Investors are increasingly seeking safe havens with zero counterparty risk, such as physical precious metals. The gold price nearing 2,000 an ounce is on the verge of a historic breakout to all-time highs. Now, you see, part of the problem here is quite simple. These banks, apparently by means of various forms of regulatory pressure, invest their money in U.S. treasuries. And you may have noticed that the yield on U.S. treasuries beyond sucks rocks. These banks have not only invested their own money, meaning the money they legitimately earned from fees and shit, in these U.S. treasuries. They also invested depositors' monies in those U.S. treasuries. And therein lies the rub. Because it turns out that of the $9 trillion plus dollars in deposits in United States banks, when you actually add up all the figures in their Chinese accounting, which is almost as bad as federal government accounting sheets in terms of being something that would get the rest of us thrown in jail if we tried to do it and showed it to the IRS, when you actually add up the numbers, I know this is going to shock you, so I hope you're sitting down. The numbers don't add up. As a matter of fact, there's about a $2 trillion shortfall so far, and it's getting bigger just about every day. $2 trillion of people's deposits tied up in treasuries, which are not worth shit anyway, have done gone poof. And who knows where else these yo-yos are putting their money, since it is their money. If you put it in the bank, it is their money. It becomes their property, and then they hand you a sort of a credit that you can use. But it is their money. If you want to look into that, look up AVE. That would be Uncle Bumblefuck, who recently did a video on the money trap that was very, very well done. It was an extraordinarily good video, but then again, most of his videos are. And it illustrated exactly how screwed this system is in that regard, okay? It really was a nice one. So let's see if Zero Hedge has anything new today. Well, the banking system is on the brink of collapse. This financial crisis will be like none other in history. Why Credit Suisse collapsing is a big deal for banks going forward. The U.S. studies how to guarantee all $18 trillion in U.S. bank deposits. Not the $9 trillion the FDIC was supposed to cover and only has about 1.2% to cover, but all $18 trillion. So now we not only have to worry about the $2 trillion and change that is missing, from depositors' money that was originally supposedly FDIC insured. We have to wonder how much other money is missing that they haven't told us about yet. And just saying, Nowhere to hide in CMBS. CRE nuke goes off with small banks accounting for 70% of commercial real estate loans. That could be good. Americans to bear the burden of the monetary system's gradual deterioration, the economy says. Well, yeah, just because Lord Malarkey said that the taxpayers wouldn't be paying a dime, we all know what that means. That means Bohica. Bend over. Here it comes again. Just saying. We all know what that's about. Biden did sign a bill to declassify the intelligence related to the origins of a certain virus that we've all come to know and despise. Whether we're actually going to see the real story, that's an entirely separate question. I would not put it past these people to release a bunch of utter and complete bullshit. Because, after all, we are talking about our federal government. They specialize in bullshit. Just saying. But that is where we are this week. We're in a new phase of the great, slow, controlled demolition and implosion of our republic. We do not yet know whether President Trump's pronouncement that he is expecting to be arrested tomorrow is going to come to fruition. We do know that a tech yo-yo who is running for president named Vivek something or other, very Indian name, was the first and only politician to unequivocally come out on either side and state that if he is arrested, this is utter and complete BS. Everybody else hemmed and hawed and played radio silence until they didn't have much of a choice. And I will say the goddess was very unimpressed with Florida Governor DeSilence's, that's his newest nickname on Twitter, Florida Governor DeSilence's very middle of the road and very well thought out, totally neutral statement. Because he never addressed that the issue is the base principle of the thing. And that's what the issue is. The issue is the freaking base principle of the whole thing. The only person who addressed that was Vivek. I mean, Lindsey Graham made his usual pontificating noises. Kevin McCarthy is threatening to haul the Attorney General of New York in front of Congress. Not that the Attorney General will pay any attention, and not that Congress will do anything. I believe Mitch McConnell is still fairly well silent on the issue. But we shall see what transpires tomorrow. So we have some world court somewhere or other issuing an arrest warrant for Mad Vlad the Invader, which everybody is going to roundly ignore, you know.
I like that
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
Well, my question is, are they going to give him bail?
So on one hand, we have President Trump pronouncing that he is going to be arrested tomorrow, which the actual translation of that is anonymous sources probably told him that he should prepare to be arrested tomorrow. And the goddess believes he's probably going to want to do a perp walk. He's not going to want to turn himself in quietly if they want him. We have Governor DeSilence, who took a very middle of the road neutral approach and said, I'm Switzerland in this case. We ain't going to do anything anyway, and we're not saying anything to anybody. And by the way, at least I wouldn't know anything about paying off hookers. Basically, that's what he said. It was a nice little jab, I will say. It was a really sweet undercut. The way he pulled that, you know, I wouldn't know anything about paying off porn stars to hide affairs, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was playing to sanctimonious in that case after breaking his to silence to give a statement that pissed off a whole lot of his constituents. He is not looking good on Twitter at the moment. Twitter is very unhappy with that man. Vivek is an amazing marketer and a damn smart individual because he saw a golden opportunity and very, very shortly. I mean, I think it was within an hour of that announcement coming out on Truth Social. He was making a video and then giving a press conference, standing and taking the moral high ground and talking about how it's the principle of the thing. I'm running against this dude and I'm saying this is wrong. If I were a Democrat running against this dude, I'd be saying it's wrong because it's wrong. Damn, that man is good. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. But boy, did he seize the opportunity there. And meanwhile, we have some world kangaroo court or other wanting to arrest Mad Vlad the Invader and saying if he sets foot in any country, we're demanding they enforce this. Well, half the world doesn't pay a flying frog's attention to those yo-yos. In fact, the United States does not recognize decisions handed down by that court. Yet Lord Malarkey said he'd happily arrest Mod Vlad the Invader if Mod Vlad actually showed up here. The goddess would pay to see how that one went, because I really don't think it would go the way everybody thinks it would. I really don't. But then again, Putin would never be stupid enough to set foot in this country, including going to the UN, since the UN said they'd arrest him too. And Germany already warned him, don't you dare come in our country because we will arrest you. The countries he's actually spending time in are countries that happen to be on his side. And it should be noted that there is a very interesting meeting going on right now between the Russian bear and the Chinese panda. And that meeting is not happening in Beijing. Normally, people go to Beijing. That meeting is happening at the Kremlin. Furthermore, Russia's largest newspaper and several other media outlets published a speech that Xi Jinping ostensibly wrote to introduce himself to the Russian people. And it was a very interesting speech. It's well worth reading because when you look between the lines, there's a lot of very, very interesting shit in that speech. And in an unheard of and totally unprecedented move that actually caught the goddess a little flat-footed, highly unusual in this case, China's largest newspaper, along with several other media outlets in China, published a companion speech that was written by none other than Vladimir Putin to introduce himself to the Chinese people. And like Xi Jinping's speech, it was extremely interesting and very, very disquieting. This represents a new layer of diplomacy that we haven't seen between these two yo-yos before. And that is very, very well worth watching. Very well worth watching. Because they're up to something sneaky. And they have plenty of company in that. It should be noted that Saudi Arabia has been acting a little bit strange lately, like choosing to reopen embassies in Syria and talking to people that they wouldn't have given the time of day to a couple of years ago, and pretty much snubbing the United States. This is a new phase of the World War we're in. Because we are in World War III. There's no missiles flying internationally yet or intercontinentally. You know, there's no millions of storming beaches of Normandy or, anything like that. But we are indeed definitely in a world war. It's a kind we have not had to deal with before. And the goddess is finding it very interesting to see how this new covert stepped up level of détente on steroids is going to work out. Because with the current administration, we all know what they're like, pissing off 3/4 of the damn world and doing so while treating us like crap. I think we're going to see a lot of strange bedfellows in this new political landscape that's going on here. And in a random aside, Karine Jean-Pierre had a terrible, terrible day at her press conference today. That horrible reporter from Africa, the one that keeps asking her actual hard questions and demanding answers even, was asking questions again. And she tried laughing him off, and she tried ignoring him, and she tried treating him like a 2-year-old. And it didn't work. She actually threw him out of the White House press briefing room after several of the reporters that simped for her defended her against him. And he got dragged out screaming about how she was stomping on the First Amendment. It was really rather glorious. And then the next reporter to stand up, I do believe they were from, what's the name of that communist? CNN, those yo-yos, apologized to Ms. Jean-Pierre on behalf of the entire press corps because she had been treated so shabbily. It was stunning and brave and totally moving. The goddess has no words. Well, the goddess has a few words, but they're not polite enough to say on YouTube without getting banned. And then Karine Jean-Pierre explained herself to the press in a 10-minute lecture that basically told them that they're all asshats and nobody has the right to expect any actual questions answered in any reasonable manner. And she certainly didn't deserve to be treated like this because, of course, the Biden White House is the most diverse and inclusive White House staff ever in the history of the entire United States, which may have something to do with why they're all utterly fucking incompetent.
Did she say anything about letting him eat cake?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still waiting for that. I'm sure she'll mutter it as she's being hauled to the guillotine or something. But you might want to look up the video because I'll tell you, the only actual reporter in that room other than Peter Doocy, who has a very unfortunate name, other than Peter Doocy, the only other reporter in that room is this dude from Africa. He's damn good. I'll give him that. And the yelling that she was destroying the First Amendment as she's being dragged out was pretty damn good. It really was. But it was bizarre and unaccountable because the goddess seems to remember in another lifetime before COVID, probably 3-4 years ago now, when a certain CNN reporter got his name temporarily taken off the White House press list for physically assaulting a White House staff member, amongst other things. And the press had a meltdown. Fascist, authoritarian, dictator, blah, 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 stomping on the First Amendment. My, how the tables turn. Do not forget to buy socks. Do not forget to back up the truck and buy more gold and silver while it's still on sale, because I'll tell you, our store was looking pretty darn lean today in terms of selection. And don't forget, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Bye-bye.
Shaggy says, have a good one.
You have a good one too, Shaggy.
Outlier says, well done. The Emperor has no clothes.
Oh, please don't give me nightmares. I don't want to think about that man without clothes.
I feel fine. Doing well, Shaggy. Oh. Hey, John, did you ever figure out a way to post that picture just out of curiosity? I didn't see it show up on the thing. We shall see, honey bunny. Anyhow, a quick review of this week. The stainless steel heating elements are not doing very well in this application. Corrosion tends to
What?
John says it wore me down and I gave up. Damn freaking electrons. But anyhow, both stainless steel heating elements, the one I bought and the one I had from previous electroplating, failed rapidly in those solutions. We'll see, honey bunny. I'm not planning on anything except I'll just keep on keeping on.
Maybe it's the thiourea. Maybe it oxidizes them and then they corrode
Well,
because of the acid.
Lauren was of the opinion that the stainless steel tends to be non-homogeneous, and it's those variations in the material that become the seed to the destruction. I don't know. They're both elements look just fine to begin with. And both of them, one, especially that latest one, just it had a hole right through it for no apparent reason. Have no idea. It was only about that big. It went right through that outer casing. Yeah, honey bunny, Nix illegitimus carborundum. You know what that means, right? Is that correct grammar? Nix illegitimus carborundum?
Not really.
What's correct grammar?
It would be nil illegitimate carborundum.
Nil illegitimente carborundum, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, who's got the translation of nil illegitimente carborundum? Nope. No, I'd say I don't know what caused the failure. It appears to be some sort of corrosion damage. It's not from power supplies or anything like that.
We have a weather alert.
What, snow?
So
Yeah. I looked out back. The visibility was down to like a quarter mile.
Tomorrow, slippery road conditions.
That's not too bad out there.
Hey, I'm just telling you what the weather place said.
No, nil illegitimi carborundum is Latin for don't let the bastards grind you down. So, as I say, we're working on a
Loosely, it would be more. It would be closer to.
Yep, the carborundum part is Jeff is grind. By the way, you get back okay with all that? Everything worked fine? Hey, Rocky Mountain. So we're working on a quartz heater. Eva does Latin to some extent. She went to Boston Latin School, where you have to test in and stuff.
Well, these days it's turned into a dump.
Oh yeah, it's political, all right. I have heard it's the slogan or the motto of the Yukon. Let me see. Motto of the Yukon.
It's not a direct translation.
Yukon's motto is larger than life.
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
Probably an unofficial.
Don't let the bastards grind you down. Illegitimi non-carborundum, Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The phrase itself has no meaning in Latin and can only be mock translated. Originated during World War II, lexicographer Eric Partridge attributes it to British Army intelligence early in the war. The phrase was adopted by U.S. Army General Vinegar Joe Stilwell as his motto during the war. In the form illegitimate and uncommemorative, later popularized in the U.S. by 64 presidential candidate Barry Goldwater.
Very cold water.
Unofficial schools. It's one of the extra dog Latin verses in 1953, the unofficial school song at Harvard University.
Very Goldwater. That is bizarre and unaccountable.
Saturday Night Live. Is the motto incorporated in the masthead of the White Horse Star newspaper? Maybe that's where I got that thing here.
Yeah, White Horse is in the Yukon, I believe.
Let's see. And let's see.
Well, White Horse is somewhere up there in the middle of nowhere in Canada.
English to Latin translation. Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, you're not going to get an exact translation that sounds nearly that good. It's a paraphrase.
Yeah. No, it doesn't give you just a straight translation there. But anyhow. Okay. So apparently Jeff got home okay.
Yay!
Glad we got that taken off our hands there. So glad it went to somebody who's going to use it, Jeff. Anyhow,
Fun.
so we ordered a 500 watt aquarium heater, and we're going to probably have to modify it to make it work for what we want. But assuming we don't break the glass tube, then we should be able to do that. We shall find out. What the hell? Anyhow, and aside from that, the furnacing seems to be going okay. Eva's going to be, right now she's focusing on the crucipels to make sure to get them to work properly. And because we noticed in certain early tests that the molten pool of lead was actually spitting out little, like, teeny weeny flaming BBs. Okay. And we'll see what, we weren't sure what was going on there. Yeah, Jeff, Tom's a pretty cool dude. Anyhow.
Is Parrish even here this week?
What do you mean here?
Is he even on the live stream this week?
No, I haven't seen him on the live stream, no. Yeah, honey bunny, they're really inexpensive compared to the Qpels too. Well, that's what we suspected, honey bunny, and with the pre-baking and the pre-treating, they seem to work pretty good. Yeah. So anyhow, we'll be doing some more testing with smaller and smaller quantities of precious metals and such. The next test, I think Eva's going to put a known amount of silver in with
I'm going to make a lead bead with
a lead button, and then Qpel it, and then weigh the silver again. So we'll see how well that works.
I have a variety of tests planned.
I say that's probably correct, honey bunny, but say she's going to be thoroughly testing parameters to make sure that we know how to use them without a problem. And then we'll probably switch, assuming that they'll work on the really small beads that we get from fire assaying, then we'll probably go almost entirely to crucipels because it'll be a lot more cost effective. I mean, Eva often does 2 or 3 Qpellings in a day. So, that's
even though I can
$6 or something like that.
To some extent.
Yeah. but they are consumable. You know, once they're saturated, and they have to go off to the side. Someday we'll see about maybe getting the lead back out of that stuff. But hey, Tricky, lead is not lead oxide, so it's not a good substitute for what we need in the actual fire assays. Oh, he just snuck in, John. Anyhow, maybe Chris could figure out how to post that picture. Hey, Chris, can I email you a picture and see if you can get it posted into the chat? That should be okay, Honey Bunny, as long as it's fairly small quantities. Yep. I mean, that'll do several ounces at a whack. Anyhow, I'm going to send you this picture anyway, Chris, just because. Oops, wrong. Discard. Okay. Because it shows you what we're getting on our stainless steel. Or something a fake? Well, I know that's a thing there. Well, you got a copy of it now, Chris, if you want to try and manipulate that. No, lead's pretty inert, Jeff. I'm not sure how you would turn it into oxide.
It can be done. I have a paper on it somewhere.
When you made my name a wrench, I did not look at anything about it. Do not know how to get back to being a tools options, huh? As far as I know. Okay, thank you, honey. Leave lead in open air for a century or so. Grind? I don't know.
I've got something somewhere on making lead oxide.
Eva says she's got something somewhere on it.
I'm more concerned with getting my lead back and refining my lead to assay grade lead.
I'm more concerned about not getting poisoned by the lead.
I'm more concerned with getting my lead back and turning it into assay grade lead.
Yeah.
Because then I can use it.
Well, you still have to have a rolling mill.
Well, I don't even need lead foil. I mean, I can use it in smelts. You can use assay grade lead instead of litharge if you want to.
Lead oxide is kind of like iron and aluminum. It makes the skin. Yeah, it is. I say that is not with a power supply. That's just cementation or auto electrolysis or whatever.
Galvanic action, something.
Lead can be digested with hydrochloric acid, though. Yeah, lead chloride might work. I don't know. So be that as it may, I'm less worried about that than avoiding poisoning.
I'm worried about being able to use it again.
Well, I'm not, because you can't use it if you're dead.
You know, when the shit hits the fan, dude.
Yeah, we'll worry about it when it hits the fan. No idea how to post in chat. Well, I've got it on my computer now, so I will.
We can put it in one of our videos.
I'll just put it on as the thumbnail next week. You know, so everyone can see it. Anyhow, so that's about it. Getting parts together to get the truck all done. Destroy all your old crucibles and turn them into lead chloride, which is insoluble.
I'm recovering my lead. Thank you very much. We're not going to have this discussion again.
Love for Hemi, huh? Honey Bunny likes to talk. Well, that'll get us back to lead, no problem. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I say we'll play some games with it, but probably not until next year. Because
It's my side project.
yeah, say we got a lot of stuff to get done here. We'll worry about it as time presents. Right now, she's got to get up to speed on fire assaying rock. Chris says electrochemical will get us to the oxide. Okay. I say we'll worry about it when the time comes. Oh. What's a Hemi? It's a kind of engine with a particular shape of chamber in the head. It stands for hemispherical. They were used I think they still are for Dodge, but I mean they're big power engines. Okay.
Hemis are good.
Not European. I don't think so, Tricky.
Hemis are good.
Yeah. Hemis are powerful. Litharge is modestly expensive. I think it's like $5 a pound or something like that delivered, if I'm not mistaken.
It's fairly ridiculous.
I think it was about $200 for a 50-pound sack plus the delivery because it's a chemical.
Yeah, it's fairly ridiculous. That's why I'm so careful with it.
But use what, about 60 grams per
30
grams? So let's
I
see.
use 30 unless I'm doing beads.
454
30.
divided by 30 equals 15. So if we got $5 a pound, about 33 cents per sample.
I will get my lead back. You do realize this.
Oh, the lead's not a problem. Getting it back to lead oxide or something that's so evenly distributed that you can use it properly in the assays. Anyhow. Anyone got any questions or any subjects or whatever? Spot price of lead's about $1 a pound now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For pre-treating those crucibles, Eva's just using some lead fishing weights that we have access.
And I can probably get more lead fishing weights too.
In general, does a compass work for mapping underground workings? In most cases, yes. If you had a lot of iron, it might interfere to too great an extent, but as a general rule, yeah, you can use a magnetic compass. Yep. So, anywho, anything else, anybody? How does a bismuth magnesium copper compound detect gold? Boy, I have no clue on that one, Tricky.
I didn't know if it does it.
If you're looking for magnetic anomalies, they also work, yeah. Or you can, if it's for a large magnetic anomaly, then of course you can just get the map from the State Geological Survey. I think I may have one. I'm not sure. I've seen them, if not actually bought one.
I didn't know bismuth detected gold.
I have no idea. Tricky said he had a question for me. He says, this works. I'll make a video and show you. It works a treat. Bismuth magnesium copper compound.
Weird.
Kind of odd. Yeah. We shall see.
That is bizarre and unaccountable. Just saying.
Well, I mean, this is a geologic map of the Elliston Quadrangle. And this and the other stuff that goes with it was $9. And 1 mile on this map is about an inch. So you can get a lot of data for $9. Of course, you can also access the same map on the internet now. So that's free.
I found a way to get it. I found a way to let you get parts of it.
Got a link on that. Oh, okay. That was for the other stuff. $25 per quadrangle where you live. Dang, that is getting expensive. Who is that from? Is that like from Summit Hut or something, or is that from the government? Can I be a mod? I don't know who you are, Joe. You'll have to convince me a little bit more. The only Joe Biden I know by name, I don't trust. What year did you get that map? About 2 weeks ago. And I say that was when we went to Butte a couple weeks ago. I got that particular map because I knew exactly where I wanted to look. And strangely enough, where I wanted to look just happened to be near the cross section. If I don't know, let me get this thing out again here. Because if you look at this map here, if you look at the very bottom, that's a cross section. And boy, it's hard to do. That cross section is this line right here on the map. That would be the cross. And it turns out that our particular area of interest was about a mile off of that line. So this turned out to be quite useful for our purposes. And thus I purchased it. Come on, you can, silly thing. Yeah, we found out that there's a major fault line a couple 300 yards off of our thing. It actually crosses one of the claims, but the area of interest that we're specifically interested in due to old maps, it's pretty close. Yeah, this one was from the Montana Bureau of Mines. Should have asked me where to visit in Arizona. Yeah, I could have told you some interesting stuff, depending upon what your interests were. Been around there a while.
Arizona sucks rocks.
Yeah, over in Tucson, they've got both the Pima Air Museum, which has a lot of old aircraft and such. And they also have the Titan Missile Museum, which is an old, it's not mothballed, it's decommissioned Titan missile silo that you go down into, on the tour and this and that and the other, and actually has a decommissioned missile
And
in
you
the
can go to,
silo.
what is it, the Pima mine, and take the Pima mine tour?
You can go to the Pima mine tour. That's a big open pit mine. They also take you through the Pima mill. They have a couple different mills. It started out as two separate mines. The Mission mine, it was the Mission mine tour, yeah. But it's the Pima mill and the Mission mill. They're over a mile apart. Now it's the same pit. It wasn't half a century ago, but yeah. So there's lots of interesting things to visit there. Oh, anyhow, anyone else got any questions?
San Javier del Bac mission.
I've got a suspicion that that's not the real Joe Biden, Tricky.
He's too articulate to be the real Joe Biden.
Well, yeah, he is too articulate. It was pretty funny. We were watching a thing today, and it was a deep fake of Joe Biden saying some stuff. And
it was outrageous, and it was good.
And the thing, what he was saying was pretty outrageous.
Yeah, he was talking about video gaming and how some chick was hot and tight and all kinds of other stuff. It was crazy.
And then somebody says, but you can tell that's fake because he's too articulate. Exactly, honey bunny. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. Anyhow. Yeah, this deep fake stuff is getting pretty good. Well, Tricky, you're out of the country. He can't get to you. Well, I don't know. He's got people. That was a pretty good trick, Joe, to come up with that. I'm surprised. I mean, there must be a space in there or something. Actually, I prefer the term sock puppet, honey bunny. Oh. Anywho.
Everybody's crazy, perverted uncle.
I'm getting a little sleepy here.
Speaking of crazy, has anybody heard anything about Fetterman lately?
Fetterman? No.
Is he still writing from the mental ward?
I have no clue. Yeah, that would be kind of funny, honey. Yep. Oh. Anyhow, well, I guess I better call it a night here since Jim was busy again tonight.
Well,
so
hey.
We didn't get to have him handle any of the load. Although Eva's getting pretty good at her tinfoil hat reports. So anyhow.
That's perfectly all right. Some people have a life. We don't.
Died suddenly, honey bunny. That'd be funny. Did anyone see the Babylon Bees thing where they had a bunch of Pfizer execs trying to make some announcement? They kept falling over dead. That was pretty funny. You take care, Tricky. You too, Jeff. Night, Joe. You take care, honey bunny. Oh, all righty. Well, good call tonight. So happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. Thanks for all the help, everyone.